This is Center Stage, putting your firm in the spotlight by highlighting business owners and other industry experts to help take your firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to Center Stage. I'm your host, John Henson, and today we're talking about something that may not be something that you're actively considering when you're running your law firm, and that's disaster prep. Whether it's a natural disaster or maybe something else, it really is something that you should have a plan in place for how your firm will continue to operate in the event of some sort of tragedy or disaster taking place. And so to help us with that, I am joined by the founder of the Disaster Preparedness Network, Jeffrey Weiss. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I'm so happy to be here. I was looking at a lot of your shows and really, really good work.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And so before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get involved in this area of work?
Well, most of my life, I've been a broadcast engineer, and I've been developing broadcasting systems. I've built over 250 TV stations with one of my companies, Advantage Video Systems, and we provide post facilities. But also, besides being an engineer, I've been a force for good in helping to volunteer. When I was 10 years old, I had this dear friend that I had known all my life, and he was tragically killed by a drunk driver. And I was at 10 years old. I was devastated. I loved him. And one thing, I went to Baltimore to be with my grandmother, and we took a trip to Washington. And on that trip to Washington, we went to the National Portrait Gallery, and there was a exhibit honoring the Roosevelts. And I stood before this giant statue of Eleanor Roosevelt, and looking at her in confidence, my grandmother whispered her words to me. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. When you cease to make a contribution, you begin to die. Those words echoed for me. And since then, I have made my passion to always do everything to make a contribution. I was working at another company at 9/11 happened, and I had been volunteering, giving blood for the Red Cross. And I told my boss, I got to go help out. I got to go to New York and help out. And he said, no. And I said, yes. And I said, no. I said yes, and he said no, and I said I quit. And I quit my job, went to New York, helped out with the Red Cross, in various aspects, and I really felt a passion for giving back. And ever since then, I've been a disaster managers, shelter supervisor, director of logistics, director of public relations officer, government relations officer, feeding manager, so on and so forth with the Red Cross. Plus, I've worked with CERT, that's the Community Emergency Response Team developed by the fire department, and it's a community people in the community coming together to help community members and to do disaster assessment and to help out at different things. We go on wildfires. We go out and do what's called water stations, where we give water. We hydrate the firefighters and stuff like that. So we really go out and engage with the community. And I've developed connections with the fire department and done training with them. So I've done a lot of work in disaster preparing for disasters. And I was talking with some of my people, and I was like, I put some YouTube videos out on disaster preparedness for homes. And I says, well, why not businesses? There's a big lack. There's not that many businesses who are really understanding how to prevent disasters and how to deal with them. And there's two aspects for your listeners that is. First of all, how does your law firm or your company prepare for disasters? Second thing is, how does your clients prepare for disasters? And so these law firms have clients. And there's a liability rate. There's a liability risk for disasters. Mm-hmm. If you are a company and you don't prepare for disasters, whether it's a man-made disaster like active shooters or riots or something like that, and insurrections, whatever we have, I don't know. And then or it's nature-made, hurricanes, fires, floods, tornadoes, and they're getting more and more prevalent. We've had more and more fires every year, more and more hurricanes every year, and these hurricanes are getting much more fierce. Tornadoes are up 60% over year. So it's and flooding is a drastic thing. We have levees. I mean, as much as Biden and the Democrats are helping to build, infrastructure with help with going even into Republican states and repairing dams, there's still massive amounts of these things that are
Yeah.
that are over the age, and these things, and levees can break, and things can happen. Rainstorms can cause mass flooding because we're overpopulating this. We're going into more and more areas and putting homes in these things, and then floods come and they do that. So, disaster preparation is something that I take, very personally, and I want to help a lot of people. So I said, I'm going to turn this into a business opportunity because, and it's a really incredible, a powerful thing. And so we do a couple of different things. We do disaster preparations. We teach companies about how to prepare for disasters, and not only just how to prepare for disasters, but most companies I'm gonna prepare for disasters. I'll get some dry goods. I'll get some this and that, but that's only part of it. You have to build a leadership structure and to lead your teams in how to prepare for disasters. And if you don't get prepared, it's amazing. There was a incident in Texas last year in the winter storm, and this huge storm came out. It was like vastly powerful storm, and parents couldn't communicate with their kids because the company didn't have cell phones went out, cell phone towers went out, and their landlines went out, so they had no way of communicating. So what did dutiful parents do? They got in their car and they drove to get their kids, right? That's probably what most of you would do, right? So the problem is that the storm got so severe, and on the way, the parents were crossing this bridge, and they got frozen on the bridge, and 4 people froze to death from that company. Now, after that, the kids were safe. The school had a program, but I tell you, the families of those 4 people, they got their own lawyers.
Right.
and that company is no longer in existence because the liability issue, because they didn't have a proper communication system. If they had had one person be a ham operator or had a satellite phone, because there's no snow in space, And so if they had set up some kind of communications plan, FEMA has it, Red Cross has communications plans. These different things have different levels of communication that you could have done. And all would have taken is a few dollars and a few minutes and a few moments of their time to really lay out these things. But many people don't know how, or don't know that there is a need for this or that,
Yeah. So, let's talk about natural disasters first, because I mean, I've been working with lawyers for 9 years now. I've known of clients in California who've been displaced by wildfires. I've known of clients in the Midwest who've been displaced by flooding. I've known clients in Florida who've been displaced by hurricanes. Like, I've seen so many different examples of this. What does a preparation plan or even a response look like for a small firm, a small business, when it comes to some of these natural disasters?
So it all starts with leadership. Everything rises and falls with leadership. You have to have the proper leaders in place to lead your teams, and you must do drills, and you must drill these things. And I say preparation starts in the office, but it expands to the community. So you have to have the right leaders to take on this task. Okay, so you have to find people who are inspired about this and who want to help their people and who want to take this on, because you have to have leadership on it. If you don't have anybody to lead this thing, it's never going to happen. Yeah, you're going to go to the local supply stop. You're going to buy some first aid kits. You're going to buy this or that. You're going to watch some videos. Oh, I need to buy a Go kit, but the Go kit's going to expire. The Band-Aid's going to, the medications and the things on the first aid kit's going to expire. No one's going to be able to find it during a panic. If you don't have the right leadership, nothing else. Everything rises and falls with leadership. Yeah. And that's with any business. If you have a business, if you don't have proper leaders and you're not inspiring people to create new leaders, then you're out of business. You can start a business I was looking at your company and your marketing and all this stuff and the incredible people you have to go out there and handle people's social media and take in the slack that these people can't do. But you do that because you lead by example. Your company leads by example. And that's the thing. So it all starts with leadership. But then it starts, after leadership, it starts with creating the correct planning and infrastructure. So you have to do that. So there's 4 pillars to a disaster preparedness plan. First of all, there's a foundation of what kind of equipment and the tools you need, and having the right tools in place, and having the right mechanisms and softwares and stuff like that. Second is having the right leadership and developing that. The third problem is to create public and private partnerships. When you are planning for disasters, you've got to plan where you're going to go, what resources you're going to go, where can you go for help. Am I going to go? Where's a local fire department? Where is a local place that the Red Cross is setting up shelters? I got to know where those shelter locations are, because if I need to evacuate, I need to send my people there. I don't need to send my people to an area where no one's going to know where we are and we get lost and forgotten. We need to go where it is. So creating the public and private partnerships, so that engaging with the community. And then the fourth is showing appreciation. When you're building a plan to get out there and your whole team is involved in doing that, you need to show appreciation to the people who are planning this, so that they are inspired to keep it up. Because if you just say, okay, I want you to be a leader and to plan this thing out, and that's fine, and I'm adding that onto your job, and that's it, and then you don't show them how much you appreciate them, they're going to find reasons not to do it. They're going to say, oh, my kids, I can't do it this week. They're going to find ways. But when you don't show appreciation, people notice that. But when you do show appreciation, people notice that even more, and they become more inspired to take that on. So those are the 4 pillars of creating a disaster plan: organization, leadership, partners, and rewards.
Nice. I love it. And so, I want to come back to that for a second, but I want to kind of ask about the other kind of element of disaster prep, and the unfortunate nature, especially as you talked about natural disasters becoming more prevalent. It also seems like a lot of these active shooter situations are becoming more prevalent, and a lot of our audience might even be sitting here thinking like, I'm a small law firm, it could never happen to me, and it's like, no, like there was a situation last year. There was a small law firm in my hometown where a client was in a meeting. He apparently didn't like how it went and got up and started brandishing a gun. A lawyer ended up getting shot and killed in the office.
Yeah.
And, those sorts of things do happen. So what are some of the elements of an active shooter training that firms should probably think about having as part of their plans?
Well, I'm gonna say a common thing. It all rises and falls with leadership. And but so if you have good leaders are not loners. Most active shooter or people who do things are loners. There's 3 major reasons why people conduct active shooter instances. One is lack of communication. Every active shooter that they've looked at, every single one, whether they've looked at their diaries because they're no longer alive, or whether they've interviewed them because they're in prison, all of them have said, no one could communicate with me. So that guy in that meeting with those lawyers didn't get the right communication level. Okay, there was a breakdown in communication. That's what caused that problem. Obviously there was some other issues in his way, but if the right communication levels were done, then that may have mitigated that. So you got to learn how to communicate properly. Learn how to, and it's, that's what lawyers do. Lawyers go into court, lawyers go into meetings, and they communicate for their clients. But and they know how to communicate to clients on a legal aspect. But how do you communicate with people on a different aspect, on connecting with them? And so that's one thing we train on. We train on leadership. We're John Maxwell leadership coaches. And so in all of our training, the foundation is leadership and communication. And so that's the main thing, is how do you, so that's the thing. Second thing is people also commit these acts because not only communication, but because of they feel isolated. They feel like loners. They feel like they're so when you promote people as a leader, they no longer are a loner. A leader is not a loner by definition. A leader, if you're a leader and you're going up a hill and there's no one behind you, you're a hiker, not a leader. And so that's what you need to do. You need to inspire people to become leaders, and when people are leaders, they are not loners, and they become powerful people in that. So that's the second thing. The third thing is you got to do when reason these activities is because people don't know the rights, how to see the signs. There are signs to, no one wakes up one morning and becomes an active shooter. People have signs. There are things that people do. You know, if you have people who are coming in and they're late to work all the time, something is causing them to come to late to work. Maybe they're having marital problems. Maybe maybe they had somebody passed away in their life and they're having that stress. Maybe they're going bankrupt. Something like this. Something is stressed in their life. Maybe they're just not managing time correctly. So, and also people who argue a lot at work. If you have a client that comes in and he's always argumentative. I mean,
Yeah.
we all but lawyers have to deal with people who are adversarial in its nature. But
Yeah.
there's a level of different being adversary and being argumentative. If you
Yeah.
have people who are always starting or being involved in arguments, those are people who are at risk. If you have people who are depressed all the time, these are and there's a number of different signs that we demonstrate in our classes that teach people about what to look for and what the signs to do and how to mitigate those things. One of the
Yeah.
things that we say is the absolute best way to turn people from these kind of things to not is volunteerism.
Mm.
When you're a business, the three most important things in any business is retaining your best employees, attracting your best employees, and building your company brand so the people, your clients and your investors and the community sees you in a positive outlet. Now, nothing does that cheaper and more powerfully than volunteering as a business. So if you volunteer as a business, then you go out there, your employees gain a sense of self-worth and accomplishment, which makes them better employees, less likely to do harmful things at work, less likely to steal, less likely to say bad words or do big instances like active shooters. Your client, your new employee, the new lawyers who want to come work for you are going to look for you and say, well, great, I make great margins, but I also help the marginalized. And so they're more apt to come to want to work for your firm instead of that guy down the street. And then third of all, the community sees that you giving back and helping people. And like I said before, when you're not visible these things, when people don't see you giving back, when they don't see you doing things in the community, then they see that. But when you
Yeah.
do, people see that even more. When you're at the local food bank handing out food, when you're at the local church helping people, when you're at the local, when you're at the local Red Cross helping people to do that, people notice that, and it's more than just a smart business opportunity. It's a great opportunity for building your business, and it reduces the active market shooters.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And just some of the things that I've heard so far in terms of, how businesses can help themselves. It sounds, obviously it starts with the leadership, but it's developing that culture of, the volunteering and just, having, having that giving mindset and stuff like that. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask you, growing up in school, we would always do like fire drills or tornado drills or
Yeah,
stuff like that. Is there an element of that you encourage businesses to have, where even if it's like once a year, to just kind of review the disaster prep and response policies, doing any sort of like mock scenarios, anything like that? Like what do you suggest in an
absolutely.
ongoing
Part of
way?
our program is building drills for you. When we do those things, we build a set of drill exercises that we drill. And you don't want to do them once a year. You don't want them doing twice a year. You want to do them as often as you can.
Yeah.
I have people who do them every month.
Wow.
They do them I have people, who do them every month, but they also send out reminders all the time on different things so people know. Because you at minimal need to do it every quarter, at minimal,
Yeah.
because people have a thing called muscle memory.
Yeah.
And when a disaster happens, everything goes out the window. When people panic, when there's an active shooter, when there's a flooding, when there's a fire, when these things happen, our minds go blank.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Now, if you drill this in and create a muscle memory, then it becomes second nature. And it's not something you have to remember. It's something that you know. You know to go to this location. You know where the kits are. You know that they haven't expired because you have a date on your kits, on your go bags that tell you this has not expired. And I've researched this. I know what's in the kit.
Yeah.
I know what's in the kit because I looked at it a month ago, and so these are things that we do. So we have a set of drills, and people drill this over and over and over again. And I had this one incident with this company, and we were doing these drills, and they were doing damage assessment. And the job was for this team to go and look at, from body to body, see what was wrong with these people, and move on to the next body. And these people would come, and they went to this guy, and it was a mannequin, and it said lost leg, bleeding. And what do they do? The guy stopped the bleeding, okay, which is good. Want to stop the bleeding from so the person's lived, and then you need to move on. But he didn't want to move on because he said, "Oh, this is my friend. I can't move on," because he was so invested in this thing, and he couldn't get that mindset to go move to the next thing. But if he doesn't move on and assess all these other people, yeah, he may save that one person, but 7 other people are going to die.
Yeah.
So how you've got to drill in these people so these people understand, and these people can comprehend how to do this. And so yeah, we drill all the time, just like your school did.
Yeah. No, and that's really, really good stuff. And so share with us, how can people get in touch with you to learn more about just setting up any kind of preparation training or system or anything like that you can help them out with?
Certainly. So we have a couple of different programs that we do, but you can reach us on our website, which is preparednesstv.info. You go to preparednesstv.info, and at preparednesstv.info, like right there, you can sign up for an appointment and talk with us. We have disaster preparedness programs that teach you about fires, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, all these things. We have active shooter training. We do where we train people, and it's a whole thing, and it's usually an online course. We train people about active shooters, and we go through the whole program. And it's not only just how to do. We have a 3-phase active shooter program. One is what happens before an incident happens. How can you mitigate it? How can you stop it? Because the best active shooter incident is the one that never happens.
Yep.
So how can you mitigate it, and what programs can you instigate that to mitigate that thing? And how can you, and the second part we do is the common run, hide, fight program that everyone knows. You got to run away first. If you can't run away, you hide. If you can't hide and you can't run away, then you fight. And the fighting is not tactical military fighting. No one needs to fight all this thing of people say, oh, we should arm everybody because then everybody can stop the active shooter. Well, the problem is that shooting someone is not an easy thing to do. Believe me, I know. I was in the military. It is not an easy thing to do to pull a trigger and kill somebody. The police don't just pick up a gun one day and say, I'm going to go and do this thing. They train every single day to do that. So giving everybody guns just makes more guns and more problems. So we teach people not to learn how to fight, but learn how to defend themselves so they can run away. So it's not run, hide, fight to kill them. Yeah, you should fight and subdue them, but you need to subdue them or stop them to a point where you can get away. Yeah. Because the police are coming. Active shooter incidents are usually usually over within 15 minutes when they start. So it's not like it's a lot of time. So we teach you that. And then the third part is what happens after an incident, because that could be the most important thing. Basically most companies throw up their arms and say, hey, I'm going to let the officials handle the thing. Problem is, officials do not have your best interest at heart. Yeah. What they have is they're getting elected, and their political donors, and their political ideology. That's what they have at heart. Your business and your brand is way down the line. Yeah. And the media also doesn't have your best interest at heart. What they care about is their media's agenda, whether it's right wing or left wing, and getting the clicks. So if they can trash your business and trash your people and get more clicks, they're going to do that. Yeah. We see that all the time. And so we teach you how to create public relations officers to talk with those people, media relations officers, and then disaster mental health people, because you need to take care of your people, to get them back to work, because the best cure is to get back to work, and you need to be involved in every aspect. And we go through a whole training process on this. So we do that. And so we do, natural disasters, active shooters. And then we have another course that is really popular. That's our corporate cultural service, where we teach people how to create a whole volunteer structure, like I talked about. How to give back, how to create the organization, the leaders, the partners, and giving, and how to be a B Corp certification, how to align yourself with the 17 goals of the UN, how to get public and private how to get grants and loans and to pay for the thing. All these things we teach on this whole program, and you can find that on our page as well. And I'll give you the links to put notes down in the field, so you can put notes on this video, so people can find all these different programs that we offer. And for a limited time, we have a really cool offer that we're offering your listeners, which is, for a limited time, we have a free active shooter training program. It includes a pre-assessment meeting valued at $500. It includes a 2-hour or 2.5-hour active shooter training program valued at $500 per person, and up to 25 people in that class. And it involves an after-class assessment meeting with your leaders to figure out what your next steps are. And so we offer all this for free. It's up to $14,000. And for your listeners and people who subscribe, so you have to be subscribed. You have to subscribe to this channel. You have to like this video. And if you like and subscribe to this channel, then we will give you a free active shooter program that will enable you to protect your people. And it really covers the entire thing. We cover the whole back. And so we offer that. So that you can reach us. Like I said, my email is jeff@preparednesstv.info. Jeff@preparednesstv.info. My phone number is 818-624-4242. That's 818-624-4242. And of course, we'll put all the links and stuff like that in the fields here, so you can get in contact with us. But that's how to get in contact with us. And we have a lot of training programs, a lot of leadership programs, all that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I know what we don't have here, and I would be willing to bet that a lot of our audience, this is just something that they have just never really actively thought about as being just a really important aspect of how they run their firms. And so really appreciate you coming on, really appreciate you sharing all of this insight. And I really do encourage people to go and check out everything that you have and take advantage of this offer. And so before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. And that is, if you had one final piece of advice for our listeners, what would it be?
I would say to really inspire your people to become leaders and to open lines of communication. I can't stress that enough. I would say that it's really your business does it. And people think about these things and they think about, oh, this is extra stuff. It's not something that adds to the bottom line. But it's the same thing about what your services are, what your firm does, in the way it does. It's not just SEO. You're not just an SEO and marketing company. You really take it to the next level and do the things that, and people think, oh, these extra things, they don't add to my bottom line, but they do. My training and your services add to the bottom line of these companies. So really invest in these things. And right now in the state of California, and active shooter trainings are mandated by the state of California. And in many states, it's mandated. So if you don't have these programs in state, another law firm is going to sue you because the lawyer, I don't know whether your people know this, but lawyers are litigious.
No, yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And if you don't properly protect yourself and your employees, law firms will sue you, your employees will sue you, and the community will sue you. But, I would say one additional thing. It's important that when disasters happen, your company responds to the community. That's one thing I didn't say here, because that would really help build your company's brand out there. You can put all the billboards on them and say, if you're in an accident, call me. But, really what does that is when you're out there and the community is in stress and your company is out, your law firm is out there responding and helping people, working in disasters, giving free legal advice at a disaster site, so people don't just think I'm talking to insurance. Offer free legal advice and do these things and get out there and engage with the community when these disasters happen, and that will help build your company too.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been really great. I know I've learned a lot. I didn't realize, honestly, how deep this really went. And so, there are some ideas that I'm going to even take to our leadership team to potentially start doing some of this implementation as well. So I know some of my favorite episodes are the ones that I walk away, with some ideas and learning a lot of stuff too. So I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you all out there for continuing to listen. Please rate and review the show, subscribe, so that new episodes get downloaded automatically. And that's going to do it for us this week. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Subscribe and like and comment.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/centerstage.